Hey, it's Monday. I'm Lisa, and you are watching The Revolution. So, our topic this week comes from a viewer. Her name is Mel C, and here's what she says. She says, even though I'm a lot older than you, I do have a question that I would love for you to talk about. I'm 31 years old, and I've always had a passion for helping people, so I went to school to get a degree in psychology and social services. I obtained both a bachelor's and a master's degree. I did this to get a good job because I have 2 small children, but also to be an asset and because of my desire to help others. The problem is that I am having such a hard time finding a job. I feel as though talking to me on the phone, the potential employer is so into me, and then when I show up for an interview, they're totally different once they see I'm fat. I'm 5'1" and 300 pounds. It's depressing and heartbreaking knowing I have spent all this time and money going to school, and now I'm not able to find a job because of my weight. I have been looking for a job for over 4 years. Have you ever dealt with job discrimination? Do you have any advice? So, first of all, I just want to commend you because I know firsthand how hard it is to get through grad school, especially with small kids, and I really, you just sound like such an awesome person, and I appreciate the hard work you've done to get through your degree and your desire to help people. And second of all, I just want to say that I really empathize with you because I remember getting my degree and being so motivated and just getting ready to get out there and make a difference, and then having to go through this interviewing process that was so long and so hard and really, really took a toll to my self-esteem. I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there and interview after interview and to feel like you're not getting results. And 4 years is a really long time to go through that. So I feel for you. I just want to quickly touch on what you're talking about, which is hiring discrimination based on weight. Anytime that a group of people is treated differently based on a physical characteristic, treated unfairly, I should say, that is considered discrimination. So that's what you're talking about. Not being hired, being fired, being harassed, not being promoted, not having someone rent you property, being denied medical care. And that is the kind of thing that happens to overweight people all the time. And in doing a little bit of research, the really discouraging thing I found is that it's totally acceptable in our society. There's no federal laws that protect you from hiring discrimination based on weight. A couple of states have some state laws, and a few towns and cities have local laws. But pretty much as far as the law is concerned, there's nothing to protect you, which is really awful. I don't even think most people even view it as a problem to discriminate against people when they're hiring them based on their weight. People who are overweight is sometimes seen as affecting a company's bottom line because possibly they might have to pay more for health care, or they might miss a lot of work based on being sick, and we know that those things just aren't necessarily true. But I think those are things that help perpetuate this problem. Also, it's really, really common, based on some of the research I did, especially for women, and we already know that the cards are stacked against us a little bit more when it comes to being hired and when it comes to our salaries, and it's even harder for overweight women. So it's a problem, and it exists. It's real. It's not something you're imagining or something you're making up. That being said, it's hard for me to think of a time when I specifically have been discriminated against based on my weight during a hiring process. So I don't have any advice that I can give you firsthand, but I am going to try and think of just some responses, and hopefully viewers will comment as well, and we can get a good discussion going about this. One thing I will say is just try your best to stay upbeat. And I know, oh my goodness, I know it's so hard. But we know are kind of starting behind the 8 ball, and you've got to come in there and be as confident as you can and as upbeat as you can. And of course, all the interview stuff, that you hear all the time, being on time, being well dressed. I mean, it's important for anybody interviewing, but it's you've got to be extra on point because just because we know that you're already kind of having to overcome this prejudice that is probably there against you. One thought I had, I mean, maybe just mention it if you feel like it's an elephant in the room. You could say, like, just to let you know, I'm a healthy person and I very rarely call out sick. I mean, you could just kind of address it and then move on. That might be one thought. The other thought that I had was possibly that trying to maybe do some volunteer work or connect in other ways, places where people could get to know you and could get to see what an awesome person you are and what a great job you do without just going in for a cold interview. Then when they knew you and what an asset you could be to their company, perhaps you would be able to kind of even go around that whole interview process because your potential supervisor had already gotten to know you. Now, I know that's really hard when you're talking about being a mom. It's not like you have tons of time left over for volunteering or things like that, but that would be my advice to you, is to just try and stay as positive as you can and try to just project that confidence. You know, it's so hard when you're going into interviews and you're just so nervous and you're sweating buckets, and you know, it seems like any potential thing could be a factor in why you don't get a job, and that's so nerve wracking. I feel like I can hardly talk. I apologize. I mean, I remember when my dad kind of called in a favor, a friend of a friend who had a superintendent in a local school district, and even though they weren't hiring at the time, she agreed to do an interview with me just for experience. And afterwards, when she was kind of going over some tips with me, one of her points of feedback was that I needed to carry a nicer handbag. And it's like, man, you know, if somebody is just making an impression of you based on your handbag, you know, oh my gosh, it's difficult not to be discouraged, and just hang in there. And like I said, I'm very curious to hear what the other girls will have to say and to hear any advice or experiences from our viewers. So please feel free to comment. I will see you next week. Have a wonderful Monday, and that's all for now. Bye. So our topic this week, oh my gosh.